Hello, everyone. Welcome to our 8th International Conference on Natural Resources and Sustainable Environmental Management and 5th International Conference on Water Problems in Mediterranean Countries. Today we have successfully completed 4 sessions. Now we will initiate with this session number 5. Our first researcher will be Professor Abbasi. Yes, Professor Abbasi, whenever you are ready, you can present your presentation.
I'm ready, and first of all, I'm extremely grateful to the organizers of this conference for giving me this wonderful opportunity to. As we all know that despite all the advancements in science and technology across the world, a sizable portion of the population of the world, which is more than a few billions, go hungry despite all the advancements of science and technology. Even greater concern is the fact that protein hunger is even more widely prevalent. The hunger for protein is much more strong than the overall hunger index of the world. More than half of the world is getting less protein than it is required to be healthy. Can we sustain the world in this fashion? What is the way out? Can we increase protein production by raising more livestock? No, we can't, because already the livestock production has been damaging the world's environment very badly. Livestock production is one of the most polluting of all activities in the world. Secondly, we have reached almost very close to the limits of livestock production. Then what's the option? My colleague would take over from me and explain, and then in between I'll be chipping in as and when required.
So before I proceed, I would just like to confirm if the slide is visible to the participants. Please, could you confirm if the presentation is visible? Okay, I'm going to proceed, assuming that it is indeed visible. So this particular figure here shows the protein consumption the world over. And as Professor Basi was saying, you can see clearly from the images here that quite a sizable part of the world is having a much smaller, shorter protein supply than the averaged requirement per day of protein, which is about 50 to 55 grams per day. A large part of the world is deficient in protein. It has far lesser protein, and there are significant parts of the world which are having an excess of protein. So we have a situation where the protein demand supply gap is increasing. And if we were to see in terms of what is the nature of protein that is being consumed, we see that world over almost 60% of protein is of plant origin and 21% is of animal origin. But if we see the numbers across countries, we see that quite a few of the developing countries have a much larger chunk of their protein requirement met from animal sources and smaller amounts from plant-based sources. But when it comes to developing countries, the dominance of the protein available is in the form of plant sources rather than animal sources. So there is a widening gap in the protein availability, whether it's in the plant form or in the animal form, the world over, and that gap is widening. Now, coming to protein source, whether it is from animal or plant source, it is reliant on agriculture for sustenance. And as Professor Basi was saying, agriculture is the single most powerful uh, anthropogenic activity which is responsible for eco-degradation and which has been responsible for climate change. And if we were to see the numbers, 9.3 billion tons of carbon dioxide equivalent emissions is attributed to agriculture, and this accounts for 21 to 37% of the global anthropogenic greenhouse gas emissions. And agriculture is responsible for non-carbon dioxide emissions, which is generated within farm gates by crop and livestock as well, like crop and livestock activities, and emissions caused due to conversion of natural ecosystems, mostly forest lands, into agricultural land use. And if you were to see the contributions of non-carbon dioxide emissions from agriculture, now 39% of it is attributed to enteric fermentation, which takes place in livestock. Livestock manure contributes about 20%, synthetic fertilizers 13%. So pretty unsubstantial numbers. Deforestation accounts for 74% of agricultural land use related changes. So what we see is that whether be it plant protein or animal protein, there is a problem of a gap in demand and supply, and also in terms of eco-degradation cost because of growing plant protein or animal protein. And the focus of this presentation here is going to be on animal-based protein. And the animal-based proteins, we can see there's a gap. Yes, there's a shrinking pasture lands required for the production of fodder for the livestock. There's also this conflict between diversion of food crops for the production of biofuels versus that for feeding animals. That demand supply gap of fodder is also increasing. And the problems of global warming, climate change, it is causing all sorts of changes in weather patterns in terms of what kind of rainfall is being experienced, and the farming that can be carried out, etc. And the global greenhouse gas emissions from animal-based sources has been found to be twice that of plant-based sources. So there's no going away from animal-based protein. What could be done to solve this problem of what we call as macro livestock based protein sources? Like macro livestock is, as we know, whether it's from cows or goats or sheep or pigs or chicken or turkey, all these animal based macro livestock. What could be the possible solution to this, to macro livestock based protein problems? The possible solution lies in what we call as anthropoentomophagy. And what does this big name mean? Anthropoentomophagy basically is the practice of consuming insects by humans. So human, entomo is insect, and phagy is eating. So practice of eating insects by humans. Now it is not a revolutionary idea by any means. It's an age-old phenomena. And if we see the evolution of man, by all indications, it seems that man evolved as an entomophagous species, means a species that was consuming insects. And why is it that if it was such a major part of our evolution and development, why did it go out of practice? In fact, it is not entirely out of practice. A large parts of the world still practice entomophagy, and but for a majority of the regions where it is no longer practiced is because of the advent of organized religion, wherein some animal sources were considered in improper, not like there were taboos associated with, etc. And there was also the case of colonization, which looked upon eating livestock as some form of savagery or uncivilized behavior. And also, this is also probably gone out of fashion because of, in general, the homogenization which we're seeing taking place all over the world in terms of food, in terms of culture, etc. So, but however, dismissing eating of insects as something which is unhealthy or which is something only the poor do who can't afford any of the better, higher quality protein sources, etc., is basically more a talk of ignorance and arrogance rather than based in any sort of reality of the matter. So anthropoentomophagy is practiced world over, even now in several places. Sorry, it's practiced in several places across the world, and it is by no means the food of the poor or the disenfranchised or a recourse to protein source which because other sources are not available. It's not that by any means. For examples, if we see, you can have canned wasps at 65 grams of canned wasps costs about $10. Hornets about $20. One plate of Eskimos $25. So it's not cheap. And then in several parts of the world, insects are delicacies, are street snacks. For example, this picture here shows a street snack in Beijing of Stuttgart silkworm pupae. And then you have scorpions, even live centipedes being consumed as delicacies. We are familiar with sushi, but we also have insect sushi, which is a very favored dish. And then several parts of East Asia, Southeast Asia, Africa, even some parts of India still practice entomophagy. And it is a delicacy in many cases. It is a preferred food of sustenance and a food of choice for many people. So in Europe also we have this exploration of insects being carried out. So we have insect lollipops in Germany. You have cooked and seasoned insects. So edible insect snacks in Thailand. This is just to give an idea of the prevalence, acceptability, not just acceptability, the prevalence, the day-to-day consumption of insect protein uh, being practiced the world over. Here we have a company in Holland which is actually rearing and selling mealworm because of its excellent protein content. So we are established that entomophagy is very much a thriving practice still in many parts of the world. But why should we look at entomophagy? What makes it special that we should consider it seriously as to supplement our protein needs compared to macro livestock? So animal protein production with insect farming. So insects are also animals, and insects actually form a major part of the animal kingdom, and there's a lot more variety in the species of insects available. And to farm insects will cause much lesser stress on natural resources than farming, say, cows or chicken or goats, etc. And this is because pound to pound, the production of insect protein takes far lesser land and energy and water sources than which is required to produce animal protein. And when you see the nutrition profile of insect protein versus macro livestock based protein, it matches that, or in fact even surpasses in many cases than that of the traditional macro livestock protein sources. Let's see some pertinent facts. So the cost of insect-based protein production versus plant-based protein production, if we were to see in terms of the environmental costs, we spend billions of rupees every year to save to save plants, which contain just 14% of protein. However, we do that by killing insects. Insects contain 75% of protein per body weight. Like per body weight is 75% protein. And and we not only spend money in doing this, we also pollute the environment by doing this. But whereas if we didn't have to kill those insects, if we were to be able to farm those insects, we would be ending up with production of protein, which is a lot more pound per pound basis, much higher, without the environmental degradation that is associated with agriculture. Insects are far more efficient at transforming the food that is fed to them into body mass, into zoomass. So this is also because insects are poikilothermic. That's insects do not need to expend a lot of the energy they consume as food in maintaining their body temperature, which is what mammals need to do. So since they don't have to do that, insects are much more efficient in transforming whatever food is provided to them into their body mass, and so therefore um, the amount of protein produced you get from conversion of fodder to body biomass is much higher, is several times higher in term for insects than in macro livestock. And so therefore this enhances the overall energy efficiency of insect-based protein production. And if it is unpalatable to consume insects directly, if that idea is too radical, uh, there's another way that insect protein can be used to save the environment, to help reduce the impact of agriculture and livestock, macro livestock production. This is by feeding the insects that we grow as food to the macro livestock instead of the plant sources that is it's fed. The environmental footprint in by this route would be much smaller. The other advantage insects have is that they have much faster production of biomass and much higher growth rate. For example, from a chick to an adult hen, it takes several months for the chick to grow into an adult hen, and that adult hen would then produce, on an average, about 6 to 10 chicks. Whereas in comparison, it takes a larvae to grow into a full-fledged insect in a matter of few days, and that adult insect can produce thousands of larvae compared to just few chicks that this does. So the production rate, the biomass is much more higher in terms of for insects. There's a far greater diversity of insects available than the limited choice we have in macro livestock. So if you see the animal kingdom, 80% of it is constituted of insects. The rest of it is 20%. And so we have a lot more variety to explore and a lot more sources of insect-based protein available to us. Now, coming to nutritive value, the most crucial part is that the nutritive value of insects is how does it compare with that of macro livestock. So if you were to see a comparison that was done by an author in 1990 of insect sources with other source plant or animal-based sources, we see that insects on an average had 50% higher caloric value than soybeans, 87% was superior to maize, 63% superior to beef, and 70% better than fish, lentil, and beans. And only 9 of the species analyzed contain less than 30% protein. Now, in terms of proteins and fats, the mean values, again, if you see insects in the mature and immature, in the adult stages and immature stages compared to commonly used food sources, the mean value is significantly higher, 36% and 38% compared to a measly 19% in commonly used food sources. The highest registered value goes to up to 72%. And then if we were to see the protein content and iron content in insects compared to beef, so for example, beef contains 22 grams of protein per 100 gram of serving and 2.9 milligrams of iron per 100 grams. In comparison, the silk larvae contains 28.2 gram of protein, but you see the iron content is 35.5 milligrams of iron per 100 grams serving. Grasshoppers, fried grasshoppers have a far higher protein content, 61.1 grams per 100 gram of serving compared to beef. Now, in terms of environmental impact, so nutritive value, several studies have established the nutritive value of insects, the protein content, fat content, amino acid profile, B vitamin profile, etc. Now, in terms of the environmental impact, also if you were to see, we have here some 4 macro livestock protein sources, and then you have the insect-based source, mealworms, to compare with. So in terms of the global warming potential from farm to region, so in terms of kilogram of carbon dioxide equivalent of emissions per kg of produce, this is the amount. What you can see, mealworm has the smallest 2.7 in comparison to beef, which is having 28.73, and the other protein-based sources. In terms of land use requirement also, this is the smallest number is taken by the insect-based sources. The only comparable slightly smaller number is that of eggs, but then eggs are not produced in isolation. They're always associated with chicken production. So uh, that's for reference to compare with chicken. The water use, it's barely nothing. It's 2.5 meter cube per ton compared to the significant water use for the production of other macro livestock-based protein sources. But in comparison of the nutrient profile, the protein, iron, and B vitamin content, we see that it matches up and in some cases exceeds that of macro livestock-based protein. So insect protein is equivalent or better to that of animal protein. Besides that, it also contains certain types of amino acids in certain proportions, which make it very easily digestible compared to macro livestock-based protein. So there are other numbers which establish the supremacy of insect-based protein over animal protein, macro livestock-based protein. So that brings us to the next question: what about taste? What won't it be a problem to adapt? So taste is something which can evolve. We can grow to like something. We can grow to get accustomed to something, and it's also a very subjective thing. So some one man's speech is another man's poison. Some of us have a taste for all of these things which are on the screen: KFC, this, that, tobacco. Is what tastes very good may not necessarily be the best for your health, and vice versa. So it's something which you can evolve and you can change and adapt to. So, in conclusion, I would just like to say that the practice of entomophagy is nothing new. It is, we probably have it in our DNA to have been entomophagous. Insects are a very very good source of animal protein with the potential to make up for the gap in protein availability in the world with very small environmental footprint. And it is probably the need of the hour to seriously explore the use of insects as protein sources. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you. It was a very interesting topic, to be honest. It was very interesting topic, and it was a new insight, I think,
Thank
about
you.
this
Thank you.
protein consumption as well. Thank you very much for your contribution. We would like to see you again in our next conferences. Thank you very much.
Inshallah. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next presenter will be Professor Murat Tezer.
Hello, nice to meet you. First of all, I wanted to thank Nearest University and the organizers for this conference. And I wish all the presenters, researchers, all the best to have a successful conference.
Thank you.
I want to present my presentation. My presentation is about to create environmental recognition, awareness about education by using tools, by using models. I hope it will contribute to the subject area very well, because first of all, we must educate people, or we must educate students. We must, by this way, so we can obtain good results. So teachers' education is also important. So by this way, we can create good awareness about the environment, water management, and so on. So before starting to these points, of course, as an educationalist, we must create a model, first of all. So my topic is mathematics meets water, so a sustainable education model. By this way, the challenge we face, let me first of all, environmental problems require mathematics as a critical tool for sustainable solutions. And PISA says to us, framework defines it as using mathematical thinking in real life context to solve problems. Actually, water management is a real life problem. So how can we solve this problem? Of course, by scientists. We can invite scientists. But before inviting scientists, of course, a scientist is a student. Then it becomes a scientist, first of all. So mathematical modeling connects abstract concepts to concrete environmental challenges. Green mathematics promotes managing ecological dynamics through mathematical models and sustainable decision making. And there is also 21st century skills, problem solving with real data, critical thinking about resources, communication and collaboration, environmental awareness. This approach encourages students view mathematics as part of their social and environmental responsibilities. They must have responsibility, first of all. So, research foundation. First of all, if you look at the literature, search Web of Science, Scopus, ERIC, Google Scholar, and university databases for peer-reviewed articles from 20 to 25, and 85 articles reviewed here by me, 42 analyses in detail using thematic analysis and coded by independent researchers, my colleagues. Design-based iteration with stakeholder participation, PISA-focused tasks, and teacher training contents. Expert panel of 5 academics assessed theoretical consistency and the Cohen-Kappa coefficient 0.82, which is high reliability. So let me introduce my model here. Here, mathematics education model for sustainable water management. So first of all, we must have curriculum modules in education, for example, starting from primary, secondary schools, universities, colleges, and so to the up. We must reorganize our education programs, first of all. Then teaching strategies. Okay, now how can we teach? Problem-based learning we must do here there. So project, work group collaboration, field data collection, modeling workshops, for example. And we must evaluate by assessments. So pre-post tests, rubrics, performance tasks, formative feedback tools. We can visit lakes, dams, with the students, what can be the statements later on. So to overcome about flooding, what must be discussed in the class, also teachers, tools, which tools should be used. So we need also teacher training. Seminar, online resources, coaching support for classroom implementation. Even we can give pre-service training to teachers, of course, or we can rearrange our programs, curriculums in the university as well as too. Of course, then after that, stakeholder collaboration, we can talk about municipalities, environmental agencies, field studies with real data, because in the even education program, to make awareness of students, we can collect real data, and from real data to real problems, solutions. Even the students can do this. We have to not wait only scientists solve the problems. So here my model about water management. Also it can be used for environmental things. So curriculum modules, instructional strategies, assessment feedback, teacher training, coaching, so stakeholder collaboration. And this model can be used to solve such problems. So we must have, of course, real world scenarios to show students, of course. Calculate, for example, about dam water depletion time based on city consumption, using ratios or using functions and graphs. So mathematics here is important. So analyzing data about neighborhood consumption, how they can use, how they are using it. Analyze municipal data with statistical analysis and histograms to compare usage patterns. Individual tracking. So, for example, monitor family daily water use through line charts and percentages to analyze personal habits. Production efficiency. Optimize factory water use in manufacturing with functions and optimization models. 6-week implementation plan, for example. Week 1, water cycle modeling. Done water amounts and CT expenditure using ratios, function graphs, problem-based learning with pretest evaluations. So 2nd week, statistical analysis and consumption by area using histogram. Data workshop with rubric assessment can be done. Personal consumption in the week 3, individual water tracking with line charts and percentages. Daily lookbook and student presentations. Week 4, water quality, for example. Pollution measurement using statistical tests and regression, project-based learning with rubric evaluation. Factory water consumption analysis with functions and optimization model eliciting activities with the formative assessment in week 5. And in week 6, we have social action, integrated modeling, and for community suggestions. So group presentation with post-test and the project evaluation can be done, for example, according to this model. Evidence of impact. So strong research support. So Kertil and Gurel already show modeling bridges, STEM integration, like science, technology, education, and mathematics, of course, demonstrated as STEAM activities, supports mathematics and engineering thinking. Gürbüz also said, found environmental problems with mathematical modeling increase conceptual learning and sensitivity. And PISA report says also this one, real problems can be solved by students, even university students. And we can create also, I may say that, project groups in universities also with, of course, us, by helping with guidance of scientists, the students manage so many projects, overcome these problems, of course. So model strengths and considerations. PISA compatible real-world tasks. So local data integration for authentic analysis, practical water consumption scenarios, multiple assessment methods, stakeholder collaboration framework, teacher readiness and training needs, access the municipal field data. We can ask from municipal. Conceptual adaptation requirements, guidance, and coaching support. So path forward recommendation. So curriculum integration, first integrate sustainability content into mathematics curriculum to facilitate daily life connections. I'm insisting to Minister of Education also to change mathematics curriculum, of course. We have to update this curriculum. Teacher support, provide in-service training, online resources, and coaching to enhance model applicability. Community partnership, so strengthen cooperation with municipalities and environmental agencies to real data access. Pilot studies can be done, conduct research across different contexts, age groups, and environmental dams to validate effectiveness. So the model offers an innovative framework that develops mathematical modeling skills also. So enhance problem-solving competencies of students, of course, and build environmental awareness, preparing students for sustainable futures. So I want to give an example about Lake Burdur, one of the Turkey's deepest lake and critical ecological site. Several shrinkage over the last decade, water loss driven by agricultural extraction, groundwater depletion, reduced inflow, and higher evaporation. A suitable case for simple educational modeling approaches, for example, for this lake. Of course, here I propose this study. This is a just demonstration model. This is the data about demonstrators for scenario based. That it's not real data, but here suppose from 2014 and 2023. So here's a precipitation, raining about millimeters per here, and agricultural extraction million meter cube, and here's change the lake here level delta G given, for example, as you see delta G here decreasing here, so that means lake actually shrinking. So here 2014 to 2023 we can use graphs, line graphs to show the change. And then we use a linear regression model, for example, about lake, annual lake volume change, precipitation, agricultural water extraction, for example. And by this way, we can obtain a good results. We can formalize this line graph as well as to and estimate the feature of the lake, for example. So we can observe that shrinkage of Lake Burdur, of course, here, and satellite-based views from 1980s, it also shows us in real life also. So continuous surface area loss here and human water use dominates climatic variability here. Linear trends are commonly used for first-order projections. So, and the surface area from 1985 to 2021 here shown, and we understand that the lake shrinking here, and here the surface area which get down accordingly, and from 1985 to 2021, and the graph, the figure we can understand from better, and by regressional model, we can understand from 1990 to 2040 what will be the lake level, for example. And we can put linear projection when could lake dry, for example. So we can say it will dry, no water left there, about 2080s, 2090s. So this is scenario-based projection, of course. So we can understand the lakes, dams, or water use about neighbors, cities, everything by using regressional models and other models too. So model limitations and recommendations. Here limitation is linear assumption ignores nonlinear climate feedbacks. Policy interventions may alter future trends. And we can recommend reduce agricultural extraction, improve irrigation efficiency, use simple models for education, clearly warning. Here, as a conclusion, both scenario-based and observed data show a strong declining trend. Agricultural water use is the dominant driver here. Simple linear models provide clear communication insights. Simple models clear insights, better decisions. So of course, we can increase this level. We can use quadratic models anyway. And actually, I wanted to show the real situation of the lake. Of course, it's drying. This is DHA news agency's latest 2025 report here. 50 square kilometers of the Burdur Lake surface area has disappeared in 94 years. So it's very important. So it is, that means it shrunk by 45%, 5 to 45%. It's too much. And this is the real situation of the lake I wanted to show. So we can create scenarios over other lake dams, and we can teach students as well as we can also give lessons with teachers at every time. Thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you very much for the organizers and you, Baker from Jolo.
Thank you, Hocam. Thank you, Hocam. It was an interesting topic, and I think I checked the maps at the same time. I think Lake Burdur is about the size of from Lefke including Morpho and some part of maybe Kalkanlı and
Yes,
Nicosia.
very
It's
big,
a very big lake.
and about 800 meters deep level. It's a very big lake. So we must save them. Actually, how our behavior is so important.
I hope the increase of evaporation will be linear and not exponential by the time increases. So
yeah,
I'm very skeptical about
yes,
what
it is not exponential, very linear. So it keeps drying. It keeps drying. So it becomes a Arabic countries. It can be.
Yes,
So
yes,
we are
will be
going to be
desert.
very sad about that. We must
Yes.
careful, and we must save water, and water use maybe by us can be decreased. Of course, first of all, we must create awareness of everybody, not only students, teachers. We must create people's awareness for using water.
Yes, hocam. Yes, hocam. Yes. Thank you, hocam. Thank you, hocam.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Our next presenter will be Professor Elif Çolakoğlu.
Thank you. Thank you, Sayın Bekir Fırıncıoğlu. I want to preface what I say at this point by saying I'm proud on this platform. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Elif Çolakoğlu. I'm joining you from Ankara. Today, I am going to present a broad perspective on the relationship between climate change and conflict, with an emphasis on these problems. I will make every effort to keep you up to current on any latest developments. Environmental problems have contributed a new dimension to security debates for nearly 50 years, especially in the post-Cold War era. As global environmental concerns like climate change, water scarcity, and biodiversity loss have made their impact apparent, the concept of national security has broadened and diversified, evolving from national to regional and from regional to global, along with perceived threats. The importance of human and planetary security has increased. The concept of environmental security now aims to address environmental conditions that affect the security of nations and persons as a matter of high policy. One of the most important environmental security concerns is climate security, which I will try to describe today. Climate security comes as a natural component of core environmental security challenges as a result of the crisis we are experiencing now, and is consequently gaining significance and attracting more consideration because climate change has become so significant in our lives and turned into a security issue at all levels. The current condition of the Stockholm Resilience Center's work demonstrates this disturbed balance. Here, they explained that the disrupted boundaries have driven systems far from the secure and stable state that existed from the end of the last ice age, approximately 10,000 years ago, to the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. They noted that the risk of fundamental change to the Earth's physical, biological, and chemical life support systems have increased significantly, thereby diminishing the planet's resilience. This resilience, they explained, could make limiting global warming to the 1.5 degrees Celsius climate target impossible. In fact, the researchers have argued that the safe limit for climate change was exceeded in the late 1980s. The last report was published in 2025. Since 2024, the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research uses the planetary boundaries framework for its planetary health check, updated yearly. Accordingly, the most recent status of 9 planets is seen when we look at the data for 2025. All of the 7 boundaries show worsening trends. Ocean acidification has been breached for the first time. This shift, driven by fossil fuel consumption and exacerbated by deforestation and land use change, is complicating the ocean's role as the world's balancer. Cold War corals, tropical coral reefs, and Arctic marine life are particularly at risk as ocean acidification rises beyond levels considered safe for marine life. Only ozone depletion and aerosol loading remaining in the safe zone. In conclusion, it has been explained that a return to safe zone is required if humankind is to achieve security, prosperity, and equality on a global scale. Sadly, this trend is not yet apparent. The limits and thresholds of our world have been surpassed. In reality, many concepts related to climate change are used interchangeably. You know, air pollution is the presence of substances in the air that are harmful to humans, other living beings, or the environment. But also, air pollution has global impacts. Air pollution causing activities contribute to global warming, and our air pollution is made worse by raising global temperature and ensuing environmental change. The terms global warming and climate change are sometimes used interchangeably, but global warming is only one aspect of climate change. Climate change encompasses global warming, but also refers to broader changes occurring on our planet. In other words, climate change caused by humans is a lot bigger issue than global warming. Climate change is the result of global warming. This refers to significant change in Earth's climate system. Climate emergency is described as a situation in which urgent action is required to reduce or halt climate change and prevent potentially irreversible environmental damage resulting from it. Climate security describes how the climate crisis affects peace and security, both directly and indirectly, with climate change acting as the danger multiplier that exacerbates underlying vulnerabilities and increase existing issues. This way, you can see the causal process through which 3 main factors interact and sometimes lead to conflict. Accordingly, climate change interacts with other political, economic, social factors in a complex causal process that leads to conflict. Among these, extreme weather events, natural disasters, and security risks caused by sea level rise are among the risks directly related to climate change. Meanwhile, security threats brought on by local competing for natural resources, diminished livelihoods, migration, insufficient food supply, transboundary water management, and other adverse effects of climate policy are also regarded as indirect threats brought on by climate change. Approaching climate change from a national security perspective requires considering this issue in terms of migration, conflict, border and territorial disputes, and prioritizing the military security dimensions. But in this context, the national security dimension of climate security requires examining the potential impacts of climate system on national security and military forces. Climate change is now more than ever seen as a new, direct, multi-phase threat to national security. The problems caused by climate change not only endanger economic and political stability, deaths, peace and tranquility, but also pose the risk of sparking conflict and tension among countries and communities, particularly in the world's most volatile and unstable regions. The climate risk index ranking indicates that in 1993, 2022, Dominica, China, and Honduras were the countries most affected by extreme weather events impacts. The ranking shows Pakistan, Belize, and Italy as the most affected by extreme weather events impacts in 2022. 6 hazards and their effects on humans, including deaths and financial losses, were examined in the index. Accordingly, floods, storms, heat waves, and drought were the most prominent impacts from short and long-term perspectives. Floods were responsible for half of the people affected. Storms caused by far the most significant economic losses, followed by floods. According to the same index released 1 year later, Dominica, Myanmar, and Honduras were the nations the most impacted by extreme weather events between 1995 and 2024. On the other hand, as extreme climate events increase in frequency and intensity, and often in support of government responses, emergency first response missions may be increased to provide increased capacity. These military missions range from responding to immediate emergency response situations following fires, floods, and hurricanes to responding to human security incidents made possible by extreme climate conditions such as drought and disease transmission. Military and law enforcement units are beneficial in providing first response assistance due to their capabilities that contribute to emergency responses, including planning, intelligence, surveillance, logistics, medical support, airlift, and manpower. The example in the presentation illustrates the disaster relief operations the Australian Defence Force participates in as part of its response to extreme climate events. The number of personnel and country's average temperature anomaly. As can be seen from this, the Australian Defence Force clearly needs to make the necessary changes to its force structure, capacity, and capabilities to meet future climate-related challenges. This is undoubtedly a necessary operational strategy for all national military. The significance of climate risks to the operational capabilities of these units must be determined and detailed risk analysis must be conducted. However, all security forces, tactical, operational, and military strategic operations are impacted by climate change, but to different degrees at various times. In recent years, the Pentagon has released a number of papers on this issue. The US Congress commissioned one such report in 2019. This paper highlights the serious hazards that climate change poses at many military installations, as the table illustrates. It lists the vulnerabilities of 79 significant military stations that were studied, pointing out that almost all of them are dealing with problems brought on by more extreme weather events like droughts and floods. According to the paper, the impacts of climate change pose a national security concern with potential impacts on the Department of Defense's missions, operational plans, and facilities. Thus, making it obvious that the department's operations must evolve to reflect this new reality. Considering how these nations view climate change, the following are some of the nations most vulnerable to a climate catastrophe. These nations have one thing in common. They are especially sensitive to climate change, even though they contribute very little to it. These examples demonstrate how climate change is intensifying already existing humanitarian crises and creating new ones in vulnerable populations worldwide. The climate disaster is already directly affecting the most vulnerable people on the globe. Drought, the main cause of food insecurity in these nations. Epidemics are serious concern, especially those caused by watery illnesses. Widespread conflict and political tensions make nations more vulnerable, which makes responding to climate disaster challenging. 90% of the world's refugees originate from countries already affected by climate crisis, underscoring the interconnectedness of conflict and climate change. Um, um, Finally, we can state that since climate change is already occurring and will continue in the years to come, we need to take preventative measures and create plans of action now. The world's temperature will only rise during our lifetimes, which will lead to more extreme weather and climatic conditions. Climatic circumstances and a more unpredictable effects. But now, climate change is a phenomenon that could lead to serious social and political issues in addition to environmental ones. Therefore, climate change should be viewed as a security issue that might lead to various conflicts at the national and the international levels, rather than only as a environmental degradation. Thanks for listening. By the way, if you have questions, I will be happy to receive them if you send them to my email address. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Elif Hocam. Thank you very much for your lovely presentation. Thank you very much for attending to our conference. We would like to see you again, as always. Thank you. Thank you, Hocam. Thank you. Our next presenter will be Associate Professor Dr. Dilber Uzun Özşahin.
Welcome, everybody. This is Dr. Dilber Özşahin from University of Sharjah and Nias University. Today, I will talk about AI applications in public health. This is the outline of my talk. First, I will give brief information about AI and AI in history. And then we'll talk about AI application in public health. And then I will show you some outcome of our research. And finally, we will conclude. Okay, so what is artificial intelligence? In order to understand artificial intelligence, we need to think about the intelligence. So what the intelligence is. Normally, so intelligence considered the capacity of the problem solving. So this is the ability of solving complex problem. So if we shift this ability to the machine, then we could think of the artificial intelligence. Now, this is the early history of AI. So first, it just started with a very basic question by Alan Turing in 1950s. He asked about if the machine think. And then later, it was 1960 and between 1970s. So we were able to develop a medical diagnosis and decision making. This is just pre-stage, so you could think, imagine on. And then in 1980s and 1990s, machine learning tools were using with the large amount of the data in order to identify the disease diagnosis, prognosis, and treatment planning. And finally, currently, what we are having is, is you all are using it, like ChatGPT. This is based on large language models that is able to solve any complex problem used by the texture. Actually, this is language models. And we have self-driving cars, even we have the vehicles will shut down when the driver is having heart attack or having some serious accident and so on. This is too advanced for this moment. Now, application of AI in public health, it is from disease diagnosis, drug discovery, vaccine development, robotic surgery, management, and decision mechanism in all sense, different kind of fields, disease prediction, and risk assessment, and finally, estimation of future outbreaks. Now, for the disease diagnosis, so now you can imagine that with your own cell phone, if you have this application, this AI application for detection of the skin cancer, you can take a photo of this skin, and the system is able to tell you whether you are having cancer or not, even the type of the lesion you are having, the size of the lesion, and so on. Now, for the drug discovery, recently Wpmc2025 discovered that using the human genomic huge data, actually, that they could have a treatment option for neurological disease such as Parkinson, Alzheimer, and so on. As you all know that this is impossible to have a medication in order to cure this such disease. However, with the AI application, so this is possible to have this kind of options. Now, for the vaccine discovery, during the COVID-19, especially this outbreak time, and there was this Pfizer that they discovered the vaccine in order to have this vaccine like in a few months. They have used the AI algorithm, deep learning algorithm, successfully, and they all use, like all of around the world, they use this Pfizer vaccine in order to prevent to having this kind of virus. Now, for the robotic surgery, this is one of the first clinical study within the robotic surgery. This is done in Ghent University. Actively, they are using. In addition of this clinical study, all around the world, which is spreading, there is a huge number of the hospital, they are applying this robotic surgery in their hospital successfully. Now, I would like to show you some of our development of AI application used in public health. Okay, this is the application we have developed in our center. So this is the AI application for Anopheles mosquito classifier program. Now you can think on that, like this is like you are taking a photo from your cell phone, if the mosquito is like, if you are bitten by the mosquito, imagine you are living in Africa, for instance, and the system is able to tell you that whether this mosquito is poison or not. So imagine that living in this kind of country, which is limited which has limited resources such as hospital and expert and doctors, this kind of tool will be very cheap and effective to take action immediately. Now, this is another study of ours. So what we have done, we compare radiologists versus AI. What we have done, we use chest images with COVID-19 and non-COVID-19. We train our system, and then we use 1,500 images with COVID-19 and 1,500 without COVID. And then, according to our results, while AI has reached 97.8% accuracy, the radiologist only achieved 65.3%. You could think of these radiologists are from all around the world, from Europe, from States, and from Turkey. So this is how we send these images through around the world. Now, this is breast cancer detection using AI. So what we have done here, we used open resources from Wisconsin, this data set we have collected. So we train our 6 deep learning algorithm in order to check actually which is the best AI algorithm to detect the breast cancer. Here you can see that you have many options that, like many criteria that needs to be evaluated based on each algorithm. So after that, we applied mathematical modeling to tell us like which algorithm is, which AI algorithm is the best. So this is all published results. Another study of ours, this is AI for cardiovascular disease prediction and risk assessment. Again, we have used the open resources. Now we have collected all these independent variables from Kaggle. So from, like for the patient age, chest pain, fasting blood sugar, all of the data which is available and valid in there. So we collected and we run our algorithm. And here you can see that we were able to do the risk assessment up to 99% accuracy within this algorithm. Now, so this is AI integrated wearable smart devices that we have published as a book. This is, I think, 2 years back we have published it. So here what we have done, we used AI-based voice control prosthetic hands. This is all prototype. It has been done in our center. So we have created 3D bioprinting of prosthetic legs, sleep apnea detection device, designing a 3D printed AI hands, artificial hands, and construction of smart assistive gloves for paralytic people, and for the construction of an ultrasonic sight device for visually impaired people, even for the mobile application development for hearing assistance, and a system will shut down, a vehicle will shut down when the driver is having heart attack, and so on. So if you are interested, please go ahead and read it. Another study of ours, we have done the estimation for the future outbreak using AI. Now, based on our prediction AI models, like in 2032, we will face more than 500,000 people will get the influenza A, H1N1. And as a second one, over like 1 million people will get chikungunya virus in 2037. And finally, we estimate that in 2042, more than 3.5 million people will get dengue virus. So this is all published, and this data is collected by the people who published, like WHO or NIH, or published high quality articles. So we collected all this data set from there, and based on this data set, so this is the prediction models we developed. Okay, so about the future, so we would like to think about, so this is AI is happening now, and as well as in the future it will be more actively used in any different kind of fields, such as robotic prosthetic and instead of biological one, maybe we will use artificial prosthetics. Will be more natural, it will look more natural. So in diagnostic for the nuclear medicine and radiology field, it will be much more advanced. And by 2030, the market for AI in healthcare is projected to reach over $188 billion. So you could think how much the people are investing here actually. And by 2026, the market for robot-assisted surgery may be even worth $40 billion, which is quite a lot actually. And now question is that will AI will replace human? Based on my opinion, we are not gonna replace by the AI. However, we have to integrate ourselves and know exactly, we need to catch up. Look, this is really a serious problem by all of the scientists are discussion now. And we need to be very careful about how to control, like where we are going, especially for the ethical consideration. Now we need to update ourselves, modify ourselves based on this ethical consideration, for instance. So this is all, like all of the discussion which is going on recently. Honestly speaking, there is no clear answer. However, based on my opinion, if we improve ourselves, if we read a lot of books and knowledge about, all this different kind of field and so on. So if we will become a smarter version of ourselves, maybe we shouldn't worry about this kind of question, but we need to be very careful about that. Okay, these are all our published books. If you are interested, please go ahead and read it. This is our team that, like, we have more than this, but just, this is the main core of the team that I have justified here. So if you are interested, we are very much open to the collaboration. You could email me anytime, so we could, get in touch and have some collaboration. We will be very glad. In any sense, either you have data or you don't have data, you have idea, and you know how to collect, like from where to collect data or so on. So we could discuss about it. We will be very happy actually. That's all. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you, Associate Professor Dr. Dilber Uzun Özşahin. Our next presenter will be Yulia Ermolaeva.
I'm Yulia Ermolaeva. I'm researcher at the Institute of Sociology of Russian Academy of Science, and also I'm the founder of Future Compass Sustainability Research and Coaching Projects. First of all, I want to say thank you for all organizing committee, to Professor Hussein Göçekuş and my friend and colleague Farhad Beluri for this invitation and chance to being with you. I wish for everybody a successful and insightful day, and I will begin with you today to discuss the evolving future trends of sustainable urban planning. This field sits at the intersection of so many critical challenges we face as society and the innovation emerging worldwide. I have acknowledged in sociology, psychology, and environmental science, and focus on interdisciplinary approaches. This research trend watching based on meta-analysis of future foresights summarized of my past urban research and global foresights of the sustainable construction industry. with participation of global and Russian expert service and interview. For more convenient explanation, I united here blocks of social policy and law, economy, social and technology, and environmental blocks as a classic Pestley analysis. As usual, these blocks as the part of the common national sustainability policies for making the resilience of cities able to hold the multifactorial stresses in the field through the lateral governance. Foresights more practical method and framework and led us to see strong and low future signals of the trends and create the more common picture for seeing opportunities and barriers. So let's start for the social policy and law block, and let's start with a reality check. More than half of humanity already lives in urban areas. By 2050, that number jumps to somewhere between 55 and 70 globally. Cities have become our dominant habitat. Cities that generates most of our economical prosperity while simultaneously consuming the majority of global energy and producing about 75% of carbon emissions. There is numerous common frameworks and taxonomies that cities currently aligned with, such as SDG, ACG criteria, and various KPI. However, the dominant trend is the globalization of reporting, while global standards and overarching goals remain essential. Cities increasingly develop localized directives and targets that respond precisely to their specific urban development challenges and socio-demographic pressures. And because of that, cities divided into developed with infrastructure which is not easy to change, to developing and planning cities. The last steps more flexible to implementation use sustainability standards in urbanism and another kinds of sustainability activities. Cities that rank high on sustainability metrics attract talented investments and tourism. This creates a parallel incentive where environmental responsibility becomes economically rational. One of the most profound shifts I'm observing is what we call horizontal governance. It represents a fundamental restructuring of power in urban context. Public-private partnerships are evolving too, and the scale of investments required for sustainable urban transitions is simply too vast for public coffers alone. But the most successful partnerships are started to reframe sustainability as a shared value proposition rather than a regulator. And here participated as real stakeholder, but also digital platforms like AI, governments, agents, and now the case of Albania shown us how it could be in future. Indeed, the global landscapes of sustainable urban development and social policy reflects three distinct pathways shaped by varying levels of institutional capacity and technological readiness and human capital. It is innovation-driven cities as the leaders, and also in construction standard implementation. It is transition-oriented cities as lead BREEAM well, often emerging economies with growing institutional framework and construction standards, and focusing on building scalable foundation. They prioritize in adapting global best practices to local context, embedding SDG into planning codes, but also follow historical and cultural codes. This multidimensional urban planning codes constructed into modular systems. And the last is capacity building context. Typically, in low resource or post-crisis urban settings are still in early stage of sustainable construction. Metrics becoming as the one of the law and policy guarantees or must becoming like that as for the government and for citizens also. But the question about some marginalized zones outside all of that sustainability activities with high criminal or environmental damage territories. Let's talk about economy. When we talk about sustainable urban development, we can't avoid the money question. Who will pay for that? What's the emerging globally is a multi-layered financial ecosystem. At the macro level, we're seeing sovereign green bonds with explicit social governance, ensuring environmental investments and also address inequality. At the community level, innovative models like community land trusts are preventing green gentrification by keeping lands permanently affordable. The slide down show how one of the instrument working and also link inclusive mechanism and inequality, which verified poverty reduction outcome to inclusive resilience found. All economical instruments must have as the non-economical and economical motivation for different stakeholders. The private sector's role is evolving too. Forward-thinking developers now recognize that sustainability certification aren't just compliant checkbox. They market differentiations that command premium valuations and tenant loyalty. But beyond that, entirely new business models are emerging around circular economical principles, where buildings are designed as material banks and construction waste becomes someone else's raw material. And circular economy becoming the main principles for nowadays and will be becoming the main trends in the future. Let's talk about social trends. And the human dimensions is the health, well-being, and generational shifts. Recent advances in environmental neuroscience are giving us hard data on what we always intuitively known. Our surroundings shape us neurologically and psychologically, and exposure to natural elements in urban settings and biophilic design surely the main trend now and in the future. Water power green walls on avenues of trees from office windows literally change our brain chemistry, reducing stress hormones and improving cognitive functions. It's restorative and productive space. This is leading to what I call multisensory urbanism, a movement beyond the visual dominance that has characterized architectures for centuries. The cities of tomorrow will be designed not just to be seen, but to be heard, touched, and even smelled in ways that enhance human experience. Think of the difference between sterile concrete plaza and vibrant public space. So it's our city of the future with gentle sounds, textures, surface underfoot, and fragrant plantings. So next trend is a generational difference that matter too. The different generation like millennials and Gen Z are prioritizing different things. For example, for all of that, of course, important vulnerability in shared spaces, our private car ownership. But for example, baby boomers are redesigning retirement commuters to combat isolation. It's fundamentally reshaping how is markets, transportation system, and parking space design. So the health system must be convenient for all generations too. And also it's raising the importance of sustainable and green jobs opportunities in cities like that. The most successful cities I've studied are those that explicitly plan for intergenerational equity, creating space where different age groups not only coexist but actually benefit from each other presence. For example, Singapore, it's a good example of integration of senior residential with childcare facilities and creating what they call intergenerational classrooms. But the main questions here how to do affordable sustainability because now it's not a mass segment that trend everywhere. It's mostly luxury segments in most of cities. The next trend block it's about technologies and environment. And let's talk about digital transformation. The most promising development, as I see, is the emergence of urban digital twins, not just 3D visualization, but also including dynamic living build models of cities that integrate real-time data from transportation system, energy grids, environmental sense, and even social media and social demographic data. And now it's a reality in some cases. For example, in Helsinki, the digital twin has reduced planning cycles for sustainability projects by over 40%, while improving community acceptance through transparent visualization. And also in Barcelona, they developing technological sovereignty framework ensured Internet of Things sensors and data collections that certificates needs to register corporate interest. And next trend, it's of course it's energy trend. It's a question now. You remember maybe futurology Jeremy Rifkin in this book Fraud Industrial Revolution. He described energy renewable stone. Horizontal governments reflects the usual users as producers of the energy at the same time. Now the reality available for separated private passive houses and needs new technology to create further for the mass trend will be more broad-spreaded. Self-healing concrete that repairs its own cracks, photovoltaic glass that turns entire building facades into power generation, fast change metals that store thermal energy like batteries. All of this will be included in blockchain verified technology peer-to-peer trading. A robotization for construction, printing houses, procuring any urban amenities in the library will be related to. It's already a reality. I see it in my own experience in Russia also. And the question is what to do with human jobs here, because robots can be integrated in physical and digital space, but for human agency, here must be space too. Circular economy, including in all macro social policy, meso-level institution and micro-level of the one building, from the stage of design and from the stage of deconstruction, and we're looking forward for materials flows back to the cycle again. Here is the natural elements, artificial ones, and recycled materials, which can be used for building industries for every types. They need standards and sustainability regulations. Now, between experts, here is a big trend in discussion what materials can be used in different climate zones. And climate change is a present reality from Miami to Manila, and urban planners are contending with a sea level rise, extreme heat, and intense storms. What's changing is the shift from resistance to resilience, from trying to keep nature out to learning how to work with that. Nature-based solutions are moving from the periphery to the core of urban planning, and instead of concrete fluid, various cities are created absorbent green corridors. Instead of fighting urban heat with more air conditioner, they designed neighborhoods with strategic tree canopies and reflected surface. Perhaps the most exciting development is how these environmental strategies are being tailored to specific climate zones. What's in temperate Copenhagen once work in Dubai or tropical Singapore, of course, and the most effective approach is to recognize this diversity. The water management becoming new challenge for a lot of coastal and south cities. In water-scarce Jordan, cities are reviving ancient water harvesting techniques combined with modern sensor technology to maximize every drop of water. In flood-prone Amsterdam, they embraced living with water by creating floating neighborhoods and water-absorbing public spaces that function as parks in dry weather and retention basins during the storms. So this is the end of my report. It's so now evolving the new urban metabolism system that circulates energy, materials, informations, and care in regenerative rather than extractive ways. As I was preparing these remarks, I found myself reflecting on something that urbanism, Jane Jacobs once wrote, cities have capability of providing something for everybody, only because and only when they created by everybody. That is the sense of what we're trying to share today. And this sense I outlined today represents a profound of remaining of our relationship with urban space, from vertical power structures to horizontal networks, from extractive economies to circular ones, and from environments that stress us to space that heal us. And of course, thank you for your attention. Again, I'd be delighted to explore on any of these further during the discussion. Here is my contact, LinkedIn, messengers, and email. And I wish you a successful day again. Goodbye.
Thank you very much, Yulia Ermalova. Our next presenter will be Aslı Akyol İnada on behalf of Bülent Bilgehan.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Aslı Akyol İnada from the Department of Mechanical Engineering at Nearest University. This work was conducted in collaboration with Professor Dr. Bülent Bilgehan, from the Department of Electrical and Electronic Engineering at Nearest University. Today, I will be presenting our study entitled Intelligent IoT-Driven Real-Time Hazardous Gas Detection. This study investigates the integration of IoT technologies and intelligent data processing methods to enhance hazardous gas monitoring in water and wastewater infrastructure systems, particularly under climate-driven environmental stressors. Climate change is causing rising temperature and prolonged droughts. These conditions increase the formation of hazardous gases in water systems, such as methane and hydrogen sulfide. Unfortunately, traditional monitoring methods are often slow and reactive, making them insufficient for responding to rapidly changing environmental conditions. Hazardous gases such as methane, carbon monoxide, hydrogen sulfide, and ammonia pose serious risks to human health and the environment. Workers exposed to these gases face severe health hazards, while infrastructure damage can lead to environmental pollution and costly repairs. There is a critical need for real-time monitoring solutions to ensure safety and reduce system vulnerability. Our proposed system integrates gas sensors, temperature sensors, and artificial intelligence to monitor hazardous gases in real time. This approach ensures water infrastructure safety while improving response speed and operational efficiency, especially in climate-affected environments. The system architecture consists of integrated gas and temperature sensors, signal conditioning units, and a Siemens S71200 PLC. These components work together to collect, process, and transmit data, enabling real-time hazardous gas detection and system response. The system employs a Siemens KTP700 HMI4 real-time visualization of gas levels. Additionally, a GSM-based notification system sends alerts instantly, allowing rapid action to prevent dangerous situations. Machine learning algorithms analyze historical data to predict hazardous gas events before they occur. This predictive capability enables a proactive approach, significantly improving safety and operational efficiency. Simulation and testing are essential to validate system performance. Using MATLAB Simulink, we simulated multiple gas scenarios to ensure reliable alarm thresholds and robust operation under different conditions. The system achieved 100% accuracy for short-term gas detection and 88% accuracy for 1-hour predictions. These results demonstrate a significant improvement in safety and operational reliability in hazardous environments. In conclusion, our IoT-driven system enhances worker safety through real-time gas detection and timely alerts. It also improves operational efficiency in water infrastructure management and contributes to climate-resilient systems capable of handling future risks. Feature work.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Bülent Bilgehan and Aslı Akyol İnada. Our next presenter will be Professor Dr. Aşkın Kiraz.
Hello, dear participants. In this presentation, we will gain a comprehensive understanding of smart cities and sustainable development goals with a focus on education. In this context, we will touch upon the following topics in the presentation: smart cities and SDGs. How do smart cities support the SDGs? SDG and education, smart cities and education, advantages and opportunities, challenges and solutions. To begin with, let's try to remember the concept of smart city. Smart cities are cities equipped with advanced technology and data use, aiming to improve sustainability and quality of life. In this context, various technological solutions and smart infrastructures aim to make city life more effective and environmentally sustainable. On the other hand, to remember the SDG concept, the Sustainable Development Goals are a framework of 17 global goals set by the United Nations. These goals aim for sustainable development on key issues such as poverty, hunger, inequality, and climate change around the world. Smart cities have significant potential to achieve these goals. These are the Sustainable Development Goals, as you remember. So, why are smart cities and SDGs so important? The answer to this question lies in its potential to provide effective solutions to the major challenges we face in today's world. Factors such as increasing population, urbanization, energy consumption, and limited natural resources reveal the need to make cities smarter, sustainable, and resilient. In this sense, smart city practices can both improve the quality of life of city residents and contribute to global sustainability by supporting the SDGs. Relationship between smart cities and SDG. Smart cities have the potential to support this SDGs. This is possible when smart technologies and data use contribute to the sustainability goals of cities. Here are examples of how smart cities can support specific SDGs. Smart transport and sustainable cities. This is SDG 11, sample project. A city can build a smart transportation system that analyzes traffic management and transportation data. This minimizes environmental impacts by reducing traffic congestion and offers city residents a more sustainable life by increasing transport access. Smart energy management, this is SDG 7, sample project. Cities can install smart grid systems that monitor and manage energy consumption. This contributes to sustainable energy goals by increasing energy efficiency. Intelligent building management, and this is SDG 12, sample project. Smart building technologies enable the construction of buildings that optimize energy use and improve waste management. This supports sustainable consumption by using resources more effectively. Smart agriculture and food security, this is SDG 2, sample project. Using agricultural sensors and smart irrigation systems, cities can produce their own food. This increases food security and ensures the sustainability of agriculture. Environmental monitoring and protection, this is SDG 13 and SDG 14, sample project. Cities equipped with smart sensors can monitor air quality, and control environmental parameters. This plays an important role in combating climate change and protecting marine resources. Education and accessibility, this is SDG 4. Sample project, smart classrooms and online education platforms can increase access to education. This can be an important tool in achieving educational goals. Healthcare and innovation, this is SDG 3. Sample project, smart healthcare systems can improve healthcare by managing health data and using telemedicine applications. The Sustainable Development Goals consist of a set of goals set by the United Nations that aim for global sustainable development by 2030. One of these goals is related to education and is called SDG 4. Here are the main elements that explain the relationship between SDGs and education. SDG 4 aims to increase access to quality education around the world, expand educational opportunities, and promote lifelong learning. This goal aims to reduce inequalities in education, achieve gender equality, increase access to qualified teachers, and encourage educational institutions to comply with sustainability principles. Key points: access and participation. SDG 4 aims to reduce inequalities in access to education. It aims to increase access to education, especially in rural areas, low-income families, and girls. Improving equality. It's important to increase not only access to education, but also the quality of education. SDG 4 supports students to acquire basic skills and receive education in line with global standards. Gender equality. SDG 4 emphasizes gender equality and aims to reduce gender-based education inequalities by increasing access to education for girls. Teacher quality. Access to qualified teacher is emphasized as an essential element of quality education. SDG 4 aims to support teacher training and increase the number of teachers. Education for sustainable development. SDG 4 encourages educating students on sustainability issues and increasing awareness of the sustainable development goals. Lifelong learning. Continuing the education process throughout life and individuals' access to continuous learning opportunities are important elements of SDG 4. SDG 4 aims to address key challenges in education and build a globally sustainable society. Achieving this goal requires a global effort to strengthen education systems and reduce educational inequalities. The relationship between smart cities and education includes many aspects, such as how technology improves city life, increases access to education, and enriches learning experiences. Here are the main topics explaining the potential effects of smart cities in the field of education. Smart education technologies. Smart cities can provide students with interactive educational experiences by equipping classroom and learning environments with technology. Smart boards, tablets, and other digital tools can enable students to learn more effectively. Education infrastructure and transportation. Smart city infrastructure can enable students to reach their schools safely and quickly. Smart traffic management, students' transportation systems, and safe pedestrian crossing can make transportation more effective. Accessibility and reducing the digital divide. Smart cities can reduce the digital divide by increasing access to educational resources. Inclusive technologies and broader access to digital resources can balance educational opportunities across different socioeconomic groups. Use of training data. Smart cities can collect and analyze education-related data to evaluate student performance. This data can be used to better tailor educational programs and monitor students' achievements. Smart campuses and buildings. Universities and schools can benefit from the benefits of smart buildings and campuses. This includes issues such as energy management, security system, and optimizing resource use. Educational management and administration. Smart city technologies can facilitate the management of educational institutions. Digital registration systems, student information systems, and management software can help educational institutions operate more efficiently. Interactive urbanization and social participation. Smart cities can encourage community members to participate in educational matters. Social participation and urbanization projects can make education a community issue. These elements show how smart city technologies can make an impact in the field of education. However, for the successful implementation of these technologies, it is important to consider issues such as security, privacy, and inequality. Solving these points can enable smart cities to use their potential in education more effectively. Advantages and opportunities. Smart SDG education practices in cities. Integration of smart city practices with SDG-focused education practices can contribute to sustainable development at the global level by supporting a sustainable, equitable education system. Some examples for advantages and opportunities are accessible education. Advantage, smart city technologies provide students with access from anywhere at any time. Opportunity, digital learning platforms and distance learning offer students the opportunity to study without traditional limitations. This can reduce educational inequalities by expanding educational access. Personalized learning experience. Advantage, smart city apps provide personalized educational experiences tailored to students' individual needs and learning styles. Opportunity, smart learning platforms can provide students with customized learning paths by tracking and analyze students' progress. This allows students to learn more effectively. Global consciousness and multiculturalism. Advantage, smart cities offer students greater exposure to global issues and different cultures. Opportunity, technologies used in education and online communication give students the chance to learn about global issues and understand different cultures. This can contribute to the SDG targets of developing global citizens. Sustainable education infrastructure. Advantage, smart city infrastructure can increase the energy efficiency of educational institutions and support sustainable resource management. Opportunity, smart buildings, energy management systems, and environmentally friendly technologies allow educational institutions to reduce their environmental impacts. Improvements in education management and administrations. Advantage, smart city technologies enable educational institutions to manage and administer more effectively. Opportunity, digital registration systems, students' information systems, and data analysis tools enables educational institutions to use their resources more effectively. This ensures sustainable education management. Community participation and education supports. Advantage, smart city practices support more active participation of community members in education. Opportunity, digital engagement tools allow parents to track students' progress and become more involved in educational progresses. Community-centered education supports provide a more inclusive approach to education. Challenges and solutions. Smart SDG education goals in cities. To achieve SDG education goals in smart cities, solutions to the challenges must be actively created and implemented. These solutions will support a sustainable, inclusive transformation in education. Some examples for challenges and solutions are digital divide and access challenges. Challenge, providing equal access to digital education tools can be difficult for low-income families and students in rural areas. Solution, infrastructure investments should be made to increase access to digital education, and programs should be developed to provide access to affordable devices. Privacy and security concerns. Challenge, concerns may arise regarding the security and privacy of student data. Solution, it is important to ensure that students' data is protected by establishing strict data security protocols. Increasing inequalities in education. Challenge, educational inequalities may arise for students who do not have access to technology or have difficulty adapting to it. Solution, students should be supported with digital skills programs and technology-supported educational materials. Additionally, training teachers in technology integration can reduce inequalities. Infrastructure challenges of educational institutions. Challenge, educational institutions must undertake infrastructure updates and training procurement to adapt to smart technologies. Solution, financing can be provided through public-private sector partnerships. Educational institutions can receive support for smart building and infrastructure designs. Inadequacy of student-focused education. Challenge, teachers and education administrators are not adequately prepared for the effective use of smart technologies. Solution, continuous professional development programs and technology integration courses should be organized for educators. Additionally, common platforms should be created to enable teachers to share their experiences and learn from each other. Financing and sustainability. Challenge, uncertainty about the financing and sustainability of smart education projects. Solution, financing sources can be diversified by establishing public-private partnerships. As a final say, the links between smart city practices and the sustainable development goals are of great importance for future urban planning and sustainability. Smart cities have the potential to increase environmental, economic, and social sustainability through the use of technology and data. Smart city practices such as smart transportation systems, energy management, healthcare innovation, and social inclusion support the SDGs, enabling by the construction of more equitable, environmentally friendly, and sustainable cities. However, achieving this transformation can face challenges. Issues such as data security, infrastructure costs, community engagement, and the digital divide can threaten the success of smart city practices and SDG targets. However, these challenges can be overcome with solutions such as transparency, ethical standards, inclusive policies, and strong collaborations. I would like to share a quote from the Prime Minister of India. The concept of smart city is not just about being technologically advanced, but also about being sustainable, inclusive, and citizen-centric. Some references and websites, and I would like to thank you for your participation.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Ashkan Kiraz. Our next presenter will be Professor Tomiwa Sunday Adebayo.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tomiwa Sunday Adebayo, assistant professor at Next University. Thank you for inviting me to this platform. It's a privilege. So for today, I'll be discussing the topic at hand, which is transition from fossil fuel to renewable energy, a policy implication. We begin to discuss the roles played by the institution, government, individual in driving energy transition. So for this presentation, this is the overview. This is what we're going to discuss in the subsequent slides. Now, climate change and fossil fuel. As we know, climate change and fossil fuel, they are related, they are intertwined, they goes along together. And the issue of climate change has become a global problem, not only for developed country, it's also a problem for developing countries as well also, because most nations are trying to transition away from fossil fuel-based energy sources to renewable energy sources, because renewable energy is cleaner and more sustainable compared to fossil fuel. As we know, burning of coal, oil, and gas, which are the base of fossil fuel, releases a large amount of CO2 and other greenhouse gas emission. When these gases are trapped, they cause what? Global warming. And fossil fuel, as we know, is linked to what? Air pollution and earth-related issues. And delaying transition to renewable energy can cause a significant problem for the economy as a whole. Now, let's look at the global context. As you know, energy is important for production. However, most countries rely on what? Fossil fuel-based energy sources. Although they rely on renewable energy as well also, but the percentage, in terms of percentage, fossil fuel is more than renewable energy. Without a switch to renewable energy sources, the global economy and the global environment is going to be at a jeopardy in the long term. Now, impact of fossil fuel dependence. When nations depend on fossil fuel too much, there are negative sides attached to it. The first negative side is rising global temperature, which we are all observing. Okay, for instance, recent water pour in Cyprus causing flooding. It's as a result of global warming. Also, in countries like Iran, Iraq, there is what? Water shortage. This is side effect of what? Global warming as well also. Sea rising. In the Antarctica, the ice are melting. This is as a result of what? Global warming also. Also, air pollution. Air pollution, this is as a result of what? Fossil fuel usage, which are causing significant effect on our health as an individual. There is also economic vulnerability as a result of what? Increase and decrease in what? In prices of oil and gas. Now, why renewable energy? Why is renewable energy important? Number one important aspect of renewable energy is what? It constitutes what? Low or little what? Greenhouse gas emission during process. You know, as I've said earlier, during the process of fossil fuel, there is high chance, or not even there is high chance, it constitutes what? A large amount of what? Greenhouse gas emission. But renewable energy on its part constitutes what? Very little what? Greenhouse gas emission during what? Operation. Why do we reduce renewable energy? Another aspect is what? It improves what? Air quality and public health. Also, it reduces what? Or increases what? Energy security. When you don't depend too much on fossil fuel like oil and gas, and you depend on maybe wind, on water, hydro, and things like this. These are natural and they are infinite in nature. As you know, fossil fuel are infinite in nature, meaning that they can finish. So another thing is long-term cost reduction as technology matures. Yes, as technology matures, the cost of renewable energy also what? Decreases as well also. Now, main types of renewable energy. There are different types of renewable energy as we know. We have solar, we have wind, we have hydro, we have bioenergy and gas, and biogas, and we have geothermal. These are the 5 types of renewable energy that we have. Now, it's important for all nations to transition towards renewable energy. However, there are several challenges that are faced with this transition. The first thing is high cost of renewable energy infrastructure. The renewable energy infrastructure is very expensive. So this is one of the major problems faced by several nations, institutions. Another thing is grid integration and intimacy of solar and wind. Another thing is locking of extinct fossil fuel assets and jobs. Imagine you are trying to transition from fossil fuel to renewable energy all of a sudden. Remember, this fossil fuel is creating jobs for people because people work in different aspects of this energy sources. When you are trying to transition to renewable energy sources, these people can lose their job if proper plans are not put in place. Another thing is political and social resistance. As you know, politics. Some of these politicians play politics regarding this switch because they are benefiting maybe from this industry that are focused on fossil fuel energy sources. Like for instance, maybe a plant production or maybe a cement factory production are using fossil fuel energy. And there's a policy for them to switch to renewable energy. If maybe one of these owners is related to maybe a politician or policymakers, they can cause delay in policy change. So one of the challenges that nations face when they're trying to transition from fossil fuel to renewable energy. Now, government plays the most important role in this switch. Government plays one of the most important role in this switch because how are they doing this? The first thing is that it's the government that sets plans, policies regarding climate change and renewable energy. So they must harmonize the climate change policy and renewable energy target together. Also, they must develop strategies of phasing out fossil fuel. There must be a policy. We call it short-term policy, medium-term policy, and long-term policy. In the short-term policy, how many percentage of renewable energy do you want to be in your energy mix? In the medium term, how many percentage? In the long term, how many percentage? So these are what the government have to put in place. Also, the government must align their energy, industry, and transport policy with climate goals. Also, the government must engage stakeholders, okay, in these policy processes. Now, government can use several tools regarding this. The first one is to enforce emission standard for plants and vehicles. There must be a standard that must be enforced by government. Also, they can, if it's part of the agenda, to introduce carbon pricing. Phase out policy subsidy. Also, there are subsidies in place for fossil fuel usage. Government can do this. They can phase out this policy. Don't make fossil fuel to be enticing people. You can phase out these subsidies for them, and you can encourage people to use renewable energy sources. Also, adopt building codes that require energy efficiency and renewable energies. Another government tool is investment and incentives. As I've said earlier, government can incentivize renewable energy. How? As I said earlier, the cost of renewable energy is expensive. In the initial stage, it is expensive. Government can make this to be less expensive by putting several incentives. Okay, the government can also support research and development for clean technologies, provide tax breaks for companies that use renewable energy sources. Government can give them tax break to encourage them to use it. Government can as well increase tax paid by companies that use fossil fuel-based energy sources. Use public procurement to create demand for green energy as well also. Now, institutional organization, which are the business sector, they can set corporate net zero tax and decarbonization plans. Companies can switch to operations that depends on renewable energy power. Electrify processes and improve efficiency. Also, it's important to collaborate with suppliers to decarbonize value chain. Also, institutional organization through the finance, the NGOs and university, banks and investors can redirect their capitals from fossil fuel-based energy source to clean and sustainable energy sources. The NGOs can as well play a major role in this also by making the ambition and policy to be popular or to be aware about this policy. Also, university can also play a major role by investing in what? New technology and training the next generation skilled workers. Also, it's important for this entity to partner with institution so that they can accelerate knowledge, because knowledge starts from the institution. They are the giver of knowledge. So there is importance for them to partner with them as well also. Now, individual also play a role, because individual use energy. Energy is atom. The first thing individual needs to do is to reduce energy wastage. When you're not using light for illustration, just off it. Don't keep on your light, on your AC, on your heater when it's not important or when you're not using it. Don't on it. You can conserve this energy. Improve insulation to cut heating and cooling needs. Install roofs. This is common now. For Cyprus, as illustration, you can see many houses in Cyprus now have solar panels. Not only in Cyprus, several countries, they're having solar panels now. So most houses are even generating electricity themselves. And this source of electricity is what? Is renewable and sustainable. Okay? Choose green electricity tariff if they are available. If they are available, you can choose what? Green electricity tariff if they are available. Now, also role of individual in terms of transport and lifestyle choices. Rather than taking your personal car, you can as well use the public transport. Okay? Consider using what? Electric vehicle, which is very common now. Okay? Electric vehicle is very common now. Why not use it? By using it, you are also protecting the environment, because you are cutting the emission that's paramount in the environment. Support business and products with strong climate commitment. Businesses that are into green and sustainable energy, support such business, because by supporting it, it's also creating a way of cutting what? This emission that we are talking about. Now, roadmap for accelerating the energy transition. As I've said earlier, there is what we call short-term, long-term, and medium-term plans. Okay? The short-term plan, the first thing you have to, the government and various institutions has to do is what? Remove fossil fuel subsidies. Don't encourage people to use fossil fuel. Remove these subsidies. Make using fossil fuel be more expensive for them. Okay? The medium-term plan is to modernize grid, expand the storage, and electrify what? The transport system. Make the transport system to be electrified. The long-term plan is what? You have to phase out coal. Phase out coals. Stop using it in the long term. Though this phasing out coal in long term, it has to be what? Supported with what? A well-detailed plan. Because just phasing out coal sometimes can have side effects, as I've said earlier. Another thing is continuous investment. You have to continue to invest in this innovation, this technology. You must continue to invest in it. Now, what are the key messages from this presentation? Fossil fuel dependency is the main driver of climate change. Depending too much on fossil fuel is one of the major drivers of what? Climate change. What is the solution? Renewable energy. Renewable energy offers what? It offers a climate, health, and economic benefit. Not only in terms of the climate and health, it also offers what? Economic benefits. Also, government, institution, and individual all have critical roles to play. Everybody have roles to play, not only the government, not only the institution, individual as well also have role to play. There must be a coordinated action, okay, to transition away from fossil fuel towards renewable energy sources. Thank you. I think that's all for the presentation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tomiwa Sunday Adebayo. And our last presenter of the day is Professor Dr. Filiz Dadasher Çelik.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Filiz Dadasher Çelik. I am from Department of Environmental Engineering at Erciyes University in Turkey. The title for my presentation will be Hydrologic Modeling with Physically Based and Data-Driven Models. In my presentation, I will first introduce the concept of modeling, then discuss why we use models in environmental systems. Then I will present physically based and data-driven approaches. I will discuss their advantages and disadvantages. And finally, I will present a case study from a semi-arid basin in Turkey, which uses both approaches. Let's start with a very fundamental question. What is a model? A model is a representation of real-world systems within a computer environment. In the field of hydrology, we use models to describe complex systems such as watersheds, rivers, reservoirs, and groundwater systems. However, it is very important to understand that a model is not the real world, but it's a human construct which can help us better understand real-world systems. As it's a human construct, all models involve some types of assumptions, simplifications, and uncertainty. Now I'd like to discuss what are the general characteristics of environmental systems. Environmental systems, first of all, are very complex systems which includes nonlinear relationships between system components. And the main forcing variables or states of environmental variables are usually heterogeneous, which means that they change both in space and time. The characteristic temporal and spatial case of environmental systems are usually incompatible, which also creates challenges during model development. And finally, many environmental systems are inaccessible, which means that we cannot directly observe system behavior. And we collect some data, but we usually have very sparse measurements, and all the observations we have can include some kind of uncertainty or error. Then with this complexity, why we should build mathematical models of environmental systems? First of all, models can help us understand hydrologic systems, and also we can analyze the fate and transport of chemicals in the system. Second, models enable us to make predictions about future conditions under different scenarios, such as climate change scenarios or management scenarios. The modeling process essentially consists of 4 stages. The first stage is called conceptualization. And in this step, we define the modeling purpose. We define system boundaries and key variables we should use in the model. Here, I should mention that there is a misconception about the accuracy and complexity of the models. It is usually assumed that more complex models are always more accurate. But this assumption is actually not true. In reality, increasing model complexity does not necessarily improve model performance, and usually highly complex models may introduce additional uncertainties, and they also require extensive data, and they can be difficult to calibrate. That's why in the conceptualization phase, during model selection, the selection of the model and selection of the variables to include should depend on study objective, data availability, and also scale of application. In the second step of the modeling, we do formulation. In the formulation step, conceptual diagrams are translated into mathematical equations. And this step is followed by calibration and validation, where model parameters are adjusted and tested using observed data. And after passing the validation criteria, the model can be applied to evaluate alternative scenarios, and they can be used to support decision-making process. At this point, I'd like to start discussing physically based and data-driven models. These are 2 approaches used, both are used in hydrologic modeling studies. Physically based models rely on physical, chemical, and biological laws. And they are generally deterministic, which means that the same input conditions will always produce the same output. With physically based models, we can represent real world processing occurring in the environment. In contrast, data-driven models rely primarily on data rather than the physical laws. and they often include a random component and describe the system behavior using probability distributions. These models learn relationships directly from data, and they are particularly useful when the system processes are poorly understood and data are limited. Both approaches have some advantages and disadvantages. When we look at physically based models, we see that they can capture underlying processes and they can allow scenario testing. And also, these models can be transferable to ungauge catchments with selection of proper parameter values. However, physically based models require extensive data. They need extensive calibration. They are very sensitive to uncertainties in input data and also parameter estimations. And finally, the computational effort needed is much higher compared to data-driven models. Again, when we look at the advantages and disadvantages of data-driven models, we see that they are effective with limited and noisy data. They are computationally efficient, and they are capable of capturing nonlinear relationships in data. However, we cannot create physical interpretation of the system with data-driven models. They may not generalize well outside the training data range, and they are not ideal for scenario analysis and extrapolation. As I said in the beginning, I'd like to present you a case study we conducted in a semi-arid basin in northern Turkey. The basin is called Tersakan Basin. It is within the Yeşilırmak River Basin. And in this basin, we applied physically based and data-driven approaches in order to understand the changes in the reservoir volumes in the basin. Again, in this, let's repeat it. Our purpose was to develop and compare different types of models for the system for predicting reservoir volumes. And as a physical-based models, we use SWAT, Soil and Water Assessment Tool, and as data-driven models, we selected artificial neural networks, vector regression, and long short-term memory. These are some of the previous studies conducted to compare the model performance with physically based and data-driven models. As you see here, many previous studies compare results based on stream flow prediction, and we couldn't find any studies which focus on the model performance for reservoir volume prediction. A little bit information about our study area. As I said before, this basin is semi-arid with annual precipitation of about 400 millimeters and average air temperature of 12 centigrade degrees. There are two reservoirs in the basins which controls all flow in the basin. These are Ledik Reservoir and Yedikur Reservoir. And Yedikur was constructed in 1986, and Ledik was actually controlled since 1933. With the SWAT, it's a semi-distributed type of model. The basin is first divided into sub-basins and then to hydrologic response units based on land use, topography, and soil characteristics. And we run water balance equation. We simulate the water balance based on hydrologic response units and can create daily outputs. So this is the algorithm we use for SWAT model development, and these are the input layers we applied in the model. And for model calibration and validation, we used a program called SWAT-CAB. And with SWAT-CAB, our model was run starting from 2020, 2021. 5 years were used as warm-up, and 5 years used for calibration, and other 5 years were used for validation purposes. And these are the parameter sets we use in SWOT model development. And on the slide, you can see the model performance for SWOT. We checked the performance based on Nash Sutcliffe efficiency and R-square values, and they were both satisfactory based on the criteria used for evaluating SWOT models. And after calibration and validation, we were able to simulate the hydrological components of the basin at the daily time scale. And that's why we were able to obtain lots of information about the basin processes. As data-driven models, as I said before, we used artificial neural networks, support vector regression, and long short-term memory methods. I'm not going to go into details about the model architectures, but let's say a few words about artificial neural networks. They are computational models inspired by structure and functioning of human brain, and they are consisting of interconnected neurons that processes data in layers to identify patterns, make predictions, and solve complex problems. Support vector regression is an algorithm that applies the principles of support vector machines to regression problems. And this technique uses optimization techniques using kernel functions to learn the patterns from data. And finally, long short-term memory method. It's a method which can be successfully used for the time series modeling, and it's a type of recurrent neural network, and it has a memory size. That's why they are usually successful with time series data. I'm going to pass these slides and come to the conclusion where we compare the results of SWOT with the data-driven models. As you see here, artificial neural networks and long short-term memory model provided better model prediction performance compared to SWOT. However, the performance of SWOT was kind of better than support vector regression. As a result, this case study showed us that both models produce satisfactory results, and artificial neural networks and long short-term memory method provided better results than SWOT, and SWOT provided better results than support vector regression. And in this study, however, with SWOT, although we got a little bit lower performance, we were able to simulate the hydrological processes in the basin, which we cannot do with the data-driven models. So in this specific study, we propose that some hybrid approaches can be used in the future to improve model performance. And to conclude my presentation today, I talked about physically based and data-driven models, and we learned that physically based models are they can be used to understand various hydrological processes and predict the system behavior. However, data-driven models are good alternatives if we have no prior knowledge about physical processes and if we have limited data availability. And again, I should say that physical-based models require lots of data and expertise. And however, if data are available, they can provide more reliable models that can be used for predicting future conditions or for evaluating management alternatives. I'd like to thank you for your attention, and if you can need more information, you can contact me with this email. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Filiz Dadaşer-Çelik, for your contribution to our conference. Today, we have successfully hosted 8th International Conference on Natural Resources and Sustainable Environmental Management and our 5th International Conference on Water Problems in Mediterranean countries. Today, we have completed 5 different sessions starting from 9 from the morning until this time. We have hosted a lot of valuable researchers from all around the world. and they have shared with us their valuable contributions to the science. We are going to have, next year, we are going to have another conferences, so we would like to welcome you. Thank you.